finding balance, exploring the relationship between macroprudential policy and minimalism, whether it can be actually connect or not. So, hello, welcome to the first podcast regarding with macroprudential policy, and why I'm doing this podcast about macroprudential policy. It's and we'll find out why next later. This podcast is also available in Spotify. So if you want to see in Spotify, please feel free to also take a look there. It might be some of you who are interested in this topic and want to listen during your trip when you're driving a car or so on. So it might be somehow useful to listen. So why I start the macroprudential policy podcast? Well, basically this is because my research interest. I'm doing PhD in this topic, and I'm also a big fan of minimalism. So why not then delve into the thought-provoking topics, then exploring the connection between macroprudential policy and also minimalism. So while seemingly unrelated, this concept actually share the underlying principle that emphasize resilience, simplicity, and intentionality. And what is that about? So first, before we go to see what's the relationship between these two, I want to remind, or maybe like try to revise what is actually the meaning of macroprudential policy, and if you're interested in this topic. So if you know, for example, you are now you are parents or a single, or you are a worker or anyone, and you are planning to buy a house or maybe buy an automotive car and so on, and there's you want to buy by credit, and when you apply to the bank asks to you like whether you have enough money to do the first installment, the payment. So this is the question from the bank that actually reflect macroprudential policy, because macroprudential policy basically want to make sure that you will be able to pay the credit and make sure that you are not gonna be tied with the risk, and therefore they're asking you the first installment. So it's connected with one macroprudential policy called that loan to value, or LTV, regulatory value, and some of them they're asking maybe 10%, 20%. So it is just the example of macroprudential policy. So what is then macroprudential policy? So macroprudential policy, it's connected with all the policy tools, regulations that has the purpose to maintain financial stability, reduce the systemic risk, and safeguard the economy overall health. So it focuses on preventing excessive risk-taking, addressing imbalance, and mitigating vulnerabilities within financial system. So that's macroprudential policy about. And then what is then minimalism? So if you follow the minimalism podcast, you know this Joshua Milburn and oh my god, I'm sorry, I forgot the other podcaster, but I remember one guy name that it's so attract my attention is, oh my god, I also forgot, but he's really good. I mean, like, you know what, you follow this, like. So what is minimalism? Minimalism is a lifestyle and philosophical approach that encourages simplicity and intentional living. So minimalism basically advocate for to the audience focus on what truly matters, decluttering one lives, eliminating excess possession or unnecessary complexities. It emphasizes mindful choice, reducing materialistic consumption, and balancing our everyday lives. So basically, minimalism is giving you like full of thought, like why you have to think twice if you want to buy stuff that basically you don't need, or buying stuff from the money that you don't have. That's why you take credit, and so on and so forth. So being more mindful with your own decisions. Believe or not, between macroprudential policy and minimalism, it's shared the same principle, which is resilience and stability. So, for example, macroprudential policy and minimalism, it's they could operate in different realms, but they actually focus to make us more resilient and stable. So Macroprudential policy seeks in financial resilience by reducing excessive risk taking and preventing imbalance within the financial system, while in minimalism it promotes personal resilience, so simplifying and prioritizing essential aspects, reducing the risk of overconsumption and imbalance. So that's simply their shared common goal, the first one. The second one, it's like actually embracing simplicity and complexity. So in Macroprudential, the aim is to simplify and strengthen the financial system, try to reduce complexity. The practice should be like, more straightforward, minimals, that is risk free, and try to reduce excessive risk taking behavior. While minimalism also, it's encourage individual to more simple in their life, declutter physical and mental space, remove unnecessary complexities, allowing them to focus on what really adds value and meanings. So that's the second thing, being simple, right? So there is also the third one. So it's the second. Now the third one is like both macroprudential policy and minimalism emphasize intentionally and mindfulness. So macroprudential policy makers must be mindful on potential risks, analyze system vulnerabilities, and make informed decisions to safeguard financial stability. Well, that's very thoughtful, right? But in minimalism, not that, but yeah, it's aligned with that. In minimalism, it's called for intentional and mindful choice, ensuring that individuals prioritize what adds value, aligning their possession, action, and habits with their value and goals. So, being very, mindful about that. The last one, the share things between these two is like finding balance and conclusions. So the relationship between these two, it might not immediately apparent, but both concepts revolve around the pursuit of balance in financial system and personal lives. We can see how this seemingly disparate concept, but actually they intersect to each other. They share the same principle, simplicity and intentionally. Okay, so let's wrap up today. Let's reflect on the connection we explore between this macroprudential policy and minimalism. Both offer valuable insight and to finding balance, whether financial stability or personal well-being. It's basically back to better life quality, basically. And this principle in our lives, striving for resilience, simplicity, and mindful choice, and be responsible on whatever we take. So thank you, and I hope it's give you a little bit of connection. I mean, like thought that would the government also actually try to be minimal, not try to be minimalism, because we also need to also explore the growth of the country, but when we face financial crisis, it's always come back to the complex in the past that we are very greedy to sometimes take a credit for production that it's just not useful, not productive. We credit, for example, for making like a lot of financial innovation and so on to enrich people's life by making a lot of derivative from one simple object, like this Ponzi system that basically what is then the core economics productivity from that operations. So in minimalism, it's definitely can be seen like it's not mindful, it's not thoughtful, and so on. So yeah, thank you for listening, and thank you and congratulations if you survive until this minute. And until next time, remember we also have in Spotify. So if you like this topic and interested, and also want to keep continue on watching it, don't forget to subscribe also in our Spotify. It's called Macroprudential Podcast with the PhD crisis. Thank you very much, and see you on another time. Ciao.